most guys want to learn game, not because they want to be players.
You've been in a successful marriage for 20 something years. I'm assuming monogamous, 25 years. And within the context of men who do want to get married to one woman, within the red pill, there's a lot of channels that, you know, it's like you're writing a book, the player's handbooks. A lot of guys, let's say that they haven't been able to have a lot of sexual experiences. They want to be able to be a player, but they also want to be able to be married at some point if they want to be able to have a family. And at the end of the day, in most cases, if you want to be able to build a family with one person, you have to have some sexual self-control. And one thing that I don't hear a lot when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to put my morality into this, but you do need to have some sexual self-control at some point if you want to be able to have a successful marriage within the context of monogamy. Because if you don't want that, you could do open, you could do polyamory, you could be like Kevin Samuel says, as a high-value man, have multiple women, or you know what I mean? But what I'm wondering is, where do you think the topic of sexual self-control for men, because there's going to come a point where once you have a lot of sex, I think that you can realize it's kind of the same shit at some point. Does that topic ever come up? Do you think that's relevant? Do you think that's important?
Oh, yeah. I get into it with Myron all the time on Fresh and Fit. Not saying that I necessarily disagree with him, because I think that like even Kevin Samuels and Myron can agree that I think they say these things to sort of like trigger, but I think there's a kernel of truth behind them. But because usually what they were saying is, shouldn't a high value man be able to cheat? Not saying he should cheat, but shouldn't he be able to cheat? So when we're talking about like becoming the best version of yourself, women want to get with the guy that other men want to be and other women want to bang. So if that's the case, and that guy's, and particularly in the 21st century, where a man has more power and more maneuverability and more opportunity outside of marriage than inside of marriage, does it not make just pragmatic sense that he should just spin plates, right? Well, that works up to a point, because first of all, you got to remember, statistically speaking, most guys will never enjoy that. They will never have more than like the limited amount of partners that they have. And another reason for that is, we're just said a minute ago, is like the rate of sexlessness amongst, Gen Z and the latter half of the millennials right now is abysmal, right? I mean, and even just generationally speaking, millennials and Generation Z are just overall are not having as much sex as, say, like the boomers and Gen X. So you have to look at it in terms of like, what's the desire? What's the, like, a lot of guys in the sort of the black pill, MGTOW, incel, and I know I'm crossing over a lot in those, but in those communities, and I realize they're separate communities, there is a common sort of thread, which is the juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? So they're like, why would I bother learning game? I don't want to, I'm not going to read Rollo's stuff because, I don't want to get with a ran through chick who's just who only wants me because of my money, or wants me because of, I'm her only plan B option or something. Well, you name it, name the excuse, right? And it's really, I don't want to do anything to maximize my burden of performance or become the best version of myself, because I don't see the payoff. I don't see the reward for that. And so when we look at like rates of sexlessness, I can directly attribute that to that attitude of the latter half of the millennials, and certainly Gen Z right now. And then maybe even some Gen Xers too. But I think I get run up the flagpole for saying like, oh, well, you're married, but you're emphasizing sort of spinning plates, right? Which is like dating non-exclusively. And what people don't realize is, in my first book, there's a 6-part series in there called Plate Theory. And it's about spinning plates. That's just a euphemism for dating non-exclusively. Yeah. And it's like, explore your options. And primarily I wrote that because too many guys were what I call serial monogamists. And they would go from one serial relationship to the next, and they break up, have this horrible experience, and they would go and repeat it again. And rather than coming at dating from a position of abundance, they were coming at it from a position of scarcity.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now on this podcast, Mark, Andrew, and I, we talk about fasting a lot. We talk about the ketogenic diet and a lot of different types of diets. But Bubs Naturals has a product. They have the collagen protein, which is amazing. They have these apple cider vinegar gummies, which are like crack, but they have
they are
these, they have these MCT oil powder packets that I've never used to do this, but in the morning I'll wake up and I'll put it in coffee, and the smoothness, number one, in terms of the mixing is amazing, but the consistency of my energy through the day because of the MCT oil powder is peak. Andrew, how's your experience with it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's like the best way to start the day. You're satiated, you're energized, and you're just ready to crush the day. So if you guys want to get in on this MCT oil powder, head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code Power Project to save 20% off your entire order. Again, Bubs Naturals, promo code Power Project to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
And that's really what plate theory, people criticize me and say, well, you just want men to bang anything on two legs. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. And if you read the very last chapter of that plate theory, the 6th chapter, it is about transitioning from from spinning plates to becoming monogamous, because that's what most guys eventually want to get to. As a matter of fact, it's been my experience that most guys want to learn game not because they want to be players, but because they want to get laid at all, or they want to understand women's nature so that they can get their wives back into the bedroom with them again. So the red pill's not just for players. It's not just for PUAs. It's not just for, again, it's a praxeology. It's not an ideology. Mm-hmm. It is a loose science. It is just, and I mean loose in the terms that it's evolving still right now. But it is, it's not intended for any one thing. It's intended for education more than anything. And I think when we characterize it as being just about, getting laid, or just about like spinning plates, or powerful men should have multiple wives or whatever else, or multiple, in Muslim cultures, you can have up to 4 wives. And so suddenly that's a red pill religion. It's not so much about the variety. It's like, what is that guy using the data or the tools that I say to build the life that he wants? So if he's already married, maybe he's using it for his marriage. Maybe if he's a player and he wants to, increase his notch count, then that's what he'll use it for. Most guys are that 80%ers, like I told you before, and they're trying to find a way to get into the 20% and just to become desirable. And I have in the first book, I have a chapter in there also called Dream Girls and Children with Dynamite. And I stole the children with dynamite aspect from a guy named Ross Jeffries. And he mentioned this in the book, The Game by Neil Strauss. He says, giving these guys game skills, like these guys who've never got laid, or they've never even kissed a girl, or still virgins, giving them game skills to do so is like giving children dynamite. And the reason he said that is because these guys are not prepared for what comes after getting laid, because they're not using it to get, to spin plates and get they just want to get with the girl who wouldn't fuck them in high school. They just want to get with the girl who that they think is their dream girl, their soulmate. And if they just had the secret formula or the secret, template to get her to be with him, then everything would be all right. And I've seen countless guys do exactly this. They'll be like, oh, Rollo, I read your book and I finally got my dream girl. Thanks, man. I'll see you later. Bye. Right. And then they come back, 6 or 8 months later, and they're just like devastated because she ended up like leaving him because he wasn't who she thought he was, because of him learning game and not really becoming more red pill aware. He just had the techniques down, and he didn't understand her nature, and he didn't understand his own nature. And as a result, it kind of exploded in his face. Children with dynamite. And most guys, I wouldn't worry about the red pill or game or Manosphere. I wouldn't worry about that influence creating this generation of asshole player jerks who are, arrogant and don't give a shit about women. I would be worried more about the guys who just want it for one thing. They just want it for that one purpose, to get with that one girl, and they'll use it, and then it blows up in their face. And I think that is something that I'm more concerned with than actually creating this new generation of players. But again, it's just giving them the tools and the instruction and the education so that they can use that. Some guys they're gonna burn their houses down, right? I compare the red pill to fire. Like, I'm Prometheus, right? I give you fire. And so you can use fire to cook your food, and you can use it to warm your home. Or you can use it to burn your neighbor's home down, and you can burn your own home down, and you can use it to really destroy yourself as well. It just depends on what the application of it is. And I've said this before, I'll leave you guys with this, is that the red pill doesn't exist so that men will hate women. It exists so that you won't hate women for what they can never be to you. And that's the thing that I think primarily a lot of players and guys struggle with, is they think that it's endemically misogynistic, or it's like men are complaining. We're complaining about women, or they're incel losers and who hurt you. That comes next, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not about being bitter. It's not about like hating women. In fact, when guys get into the anger phase, they're not angry at women. They're angry at themselves, because they believed all this nonsense for as long as they did, and they got nothing out of it. And now they're learning this stuff, and they pick up my book or whoever's book, and they become something more than what they were before. And it's kind of disillusioning for those guys, because they thought those girls were like, sugar and spice, right? They thought they should be this one way. They're playing by these rules, and you find out that they're not actually playing by these rules. So there's going to be anger, but it's not meant to be directed at women. It's usually directed at themselves.
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right. See you later.